into legal, performance, features, integration, and of course there is a goodie at the end of the slide, so stay tuned until the last slide. There is something free to grab, which is always nice, where you can just build your own opinion on the whole matter. Why did I choose Ganesha? It just made a big fit here in terms of the title of the talk today, because if you think about analytics, there are so many obstacles and so many things you have considered, which I will try to cover here step by step. Of course, there will be also only the chance to scratch on the surface for certain topics, especially legal, but we will see how we guide through it. I would appreciate, and maybe if you don't like, to take this in an interactive format. So if there is something up which you want to ask directly, immediately, please raise your hand, and I hope I can answer your question directly. But let's jump in. My name is Alexander. I'm coming from Twipler, which is an abbreviation for the website intelligence platform. We are around since around about 2016. We acquired more than 2.5 million installed websites since our launch. We are the #1 analytics app on Wix, which some of you might know. It's the 3rd biggest website builder in the world. We are part of their premium program, and we recently also signed an agreement with them that they will also integrate us natively in their own analytics solution by providing session recordings and heat maps and stuff. I will come to later on that feature slide. Our user base is more than 50% coming from the US, which means also there is an increasing interest in stuff that we offer in terms of privacy and features. And to name some reference clients, we recently have won a Fortune 500 company, which we are very proud of. It's called Insight. They are doing active IT consultancy. I think it's the biggest Microsoft license provider and distributor in the world, roughly 15,000 employees with a turnover of more than 10 billion. Then we recently also have won a project with Virgin Atlantic Airways, which are using our tool in terms of to analyze their booking process, in terms of what tickets are being looked for, what tickets are being taken to the card, etc. And they are also willing on planning to expand the usage of our tool for other verticals that they have. Both of them, and not to do any what's the English word for putting bad words on competitors, but they came from a different other enterprise analytics solution for maybe some of the reasons that you will learn in the next slides and I will talk about. Then we also have the Technical University of Munich, which is also part of some slides when I mentioned some of our success stories. Pretty interesting. The effect of dealing with that analytics topic in a more broader range. Hans Seidel Stiftung, and we also have a so-called white label solution where one of the reference clients that I can mention is the biggest eCommerce SaaS in Romania, which are reselling our tool under their own brand and umbrella. Good. Analytics and how it should be. All what you will see is more a really condensed summary of the experience that I have made in the last 10 years when it's about in terms of legal functionality and all these things, time where there was not even thought about GDPR and e-privacy and all the other legislation which came up. But as you might know, privacy is an ongoing trend and it's not about to stop. So it's surely something that you have to consider in order to assess why looking at solutions. So let's first look at the legal context, especially the legislation or the context within the European Union, because most of the legal adoptions all over the world are inspired by GDPR. So recently, of course, some states in the US, like the CCPA in California or the Virginia Data Protection Act, even China now passed privacy laws, which sounds a bit ironic, but nevertheless. But it's an ongoing trend, and of course, people will demand for their rights of privacy. But in the European Union, it's fairly simple. You have two aspects to think about. First of all is the request if you want to store something onto the user's device, which is, let's assume, his domain, his device is like intruding his digital living room. So you have to ask him upfront for storing any type of information in a cookie, in a local storage, in a session storage, as long as it is not technically necessary. There are some vague definitions about that. It's purely clear that a typo 3 backend login cookie, a BE user cookie, is surely technically necessary to ensure that your session is still alive. But there are ongoing trials, legal trials, in terms of the interpretation authority of this technical necessary. But I'm pretty sure the simplest rule that you can apply is, if you would delete that cookie, will the website still work? And in most of the cases, let's take Google cookies, whatever, of course the website will still work. So it's not technical necessary. This is the first aspect, so storing stuff on the user device. And the second aspect is if you're about to query information from the user device. The first part is covered in that, sorry, wrong button. The first aspect is covered in the GDPR, so General Data Protection Regulation, which is covering the part of storing data onto the device. And the other part is called, or is reflected in the so-called ePrivacy Directive, when it's about querying that information from the device. It could be that you want to get some information which is stored by yourself in a cookie just before, or even information like the screen resolution or other stuff. This persists on the device. Important in this context is, and to mention this, scrolling back a bit to these 10 years of experience, what the ePrivacy Directive directly implies is that you have to ask for a consent if you want to query information which already existed on the device. So undoubted, if there is a screen resolution and this does not change all the time, of course this information has been there already before. If you drop a cookie or something else, also this information has been technically already be there. So, and these two legal implications come to the conclusion that you need an informative upfront consent in order to store something on the device or request something from the device. This is the legal situation. And if it's about countries outside the EU, even United Kingdom, all of them are inspired highly by the GDPR with some slight modifications, but this is what we are dealing with. Okay, so recent legal implications. Recent is more into quotes, but what could happen if you are not obeying these rules? There is a very maybe famous example which I've chose because it's one of the biggest fines ever brought out in the terms of using Google Analytics. It was the Swedish telecom company called Tele2, which got fined by the Swedish Data Protection Authority to pay 12 million Swedish crowns, which equals 1 million euro. Of course, there are other cases. I don't know if some of you remember that Google Fonts case, which happens in the last year. We also have in one of the other slides of examples, which I've deleted, but some of you might still remember the Facebook like button. I don't know if you've ever seen it again, but it's disappeared somehow accidentally. Privacy is surely the reason. And Google Fonts, MailChimp, newsletter tools, and so on and so on. So there is an endless list. There is also a nice online database in terms of finding all these fines in order to which has been prosecuted by the authorities. But it's obviously clear, is it worth running the risk? No, I would say no, because you maybe as a developer or as an agency, if your client will come to you and say, what can we do? What can we use? And we want to acquire some numbers, we need some stats. Would you be the one being responsible for that decision, coming back to you after some months and say, hey, I got a letter from a lawyer which is asking for some money because he's detected that we use Google Fonts or whatever. But the question is then natural, and I had some various talks already these days. Do you need a cookie banner? And if you need one, how to get the most out of it if you do. In general, of course, based on our business model or our company or privacy in our DNA, of course, we dislike cookie banners. This is just a natural feeling. But what I must admit, these companies did very good marketing in terms of giving you, as a maybe website owner, the feeling that you need something like a cookie banner up front. It seems to be mandatory to have something like that. But is it? Depends. But first thing, if you are about to use a cookie banner, you should implement it properly, because the stuff that I was referring to in terms of GDPR and e-privacy, it goes even deeper. And this is a screenshot which I have taken from NOYB, which is the association from a guy called Max Schrems. I'm not sure whether you heard of the Schrems decisions at the European Court of Justice, the guy who kept or stopped the safe harbor agreement and then the privacy shield and so on. And coming back to this screenshot, so if you about to use a cookie banner and you are willing and need it because you run services that imply a content, do it right. Of course, most of us know these ones, which are technically and legally not okay. Yeah, because the law clearly says you need a balanced decision between accept and reject. So same color, same size, no priorities, in order to give the user and the visitor an informative or a balanced way to take his decision. I know that this is the common approach, but I think we will soon see a wave, and it's already going on, also especially driven by associations like NOYB, that companies will be approached in the terms of, hey, nice that you have a cookie banner, but you should do it right. So this will be surely coming up soon, and we will see a slight shift in the representation of all these cookie banners on websites that we visit. So it's fine if you need a cookie banner, just do it right, do it balanced, do it equal, and give the user a decent choice of what he wants to do, which imply a fact that you will see in the results. I'll come to this in a second, sorry. So if you need a cookie banner, fine, but if not, what is one of your options? One of the options is, you might not heard of that, and trust me, it took us years of development and legal consultancies, because our initial goal was to bring something up which makes cookie banner obsolete, at least for the usage of our tool. And our goal was to go consentless with our tool, which means we went into really deep sessions with our lawyers in terms of GDPR and e-privacy. Is this doable to build a tool which acquires stats, which acquire numbers, and don't force the user to take this even balanced decision for the sake of the website owner? And yes, it's possible. And so there is a way to do something which there is no consent needed. And we have proven this in a success story with the Technical University of Munich. I will just guide you through some information. So this is how the website looked before we started working with them together. You know that how it is, a common cookie banner. There is an accept all in a settings. There is also a big discussion whether a settings button on the same level as an accept button is legally okay. I doubt. So, but nevertheless, they don't have the problem anymore, just to mention that. And then we did a legal due diligence with them about this cookie banner. They switched from a different version, from a different type of analytics tool to us, self-hosted and so on. They were not very happy. And then we took the chance to also make it possible for them to get rid of the cookie banner. So what did we do? We reassessed the cookie banner in terms of all the services that were agreed on here and consented with here. The outcome was there was a huge list of services, like you may know from other cookie banners. Half of the services were not even used anymore. So this list was never reduced or touched again, because if somebody clicks accept all, we don't care. We simply don't care, which is fair and understandable. So half of the services were not even used anymore. And then we moved all the other services which are needed to be consented, like the embed of a YouTube video, the embed of a Spotify stream or whatever. We just put it in page, which means if you see, if there is an embedded YouTube video, why ask people up front and on a global and general approach to say, yes, please accept to this up front? Because there could be the chance that you will see a YouTube video during your journey, maybe somewhere, which might often not be the case. And of course, in that regards, as already mentioned, we implemented a tool, accidentally our tool, where we write nothing on that device in terms of GDPR, and we have not queried anything from the device, which is the highest privacy level within our application. So we went from here to this, which means, what is the purpose or what is the intention of having a website from a university? It's surely not that you get all the consents that you need for embedding any third-party implementations of videos and whatever. The goal of this website is present themselves, provide an overview of their studies. So present your product, present your company, present your services. And what was the effect? Pretty interesting for me as well at that time. Although a lot of studies have already proven that cookie banners are more or less a very big obstacle. We went from 20% visible traffic to 100%. So in numbers, not exact numbers, but assuming that you now had a month with 10,000 visitors on your website, and as soon as you go this hard way, or not hard way, but this effortful way, you will end up, instead of 1,000 visitors, with 5,000 visitors. And they are not new visitors, of course not. We haven't brought them new traffic. Why? How can we? The only thing that we did, that we gave them access to these hidden 80% afterwards. And you can imagine that they were very, 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 very happy about that fact, that they have seen, aha, these are the real numbers, by doing slight changes to the then inexisting cookie banner, plus switching to a tool which respects the privacy of the user, doesn't give him the burden of having a balanced decision to be done, and respecting the user's privacy. Because also, in terms of GDPR and e-privacy, there is a legitimate interest of the website owner to do measuring your reach, checking for errors on your website, geographical penetration, and stuff like that. And these are the things that we have been reflecting and obeyed during our long discussions with our lawyers in order to come to something which is capable of delivering the benefit of something like this. And we encountered this already with some of the companies I've mentioned before. For instance, that Virgin Atlantic Airways, which is a British airline operating internationally, and they came up with numbers from another company doing analytics. Let's say it was Y per month, and now we have rolled it out and are in production since a month, and we acquire data since 2 weeks, and during these 2 weeks we are already at double Y because of the approach. Might be the cookie banner, might be whatever. We don't know, but of course, what is clear, we do not bring you traffic, we just bring you access to the traffic which is already there. Good. The other thing is, now we mentioned a lot of the consentless approach. The option number 2 is, we call it go hybrid. In this regards, which simply means there might be services, there might be cookies, there might be things you have to load in order to get consent for other tools. Like, let's assume you do performance marketing, Google Ads, something where you need the exact information when that user lands on your homepage on that specific URL. And what do we recommend? Fairly simple. You need that cookie banner, that's obvious, if you don't want to break the law. But as our tool is so smart enough to give you the possibility to say, okay, if somebody clicks on that button, you go consentless, and if somebody clicks on that button, you go just in the full throttle data mode, or the mode that you've set. You are now able to just ideally and align that perfect privacy level to that button of the cookie banner, assuming that if somebody rejects, okay, we go consentless, no consent is required. In the acceptance mode, we load analytics with the data being set in the privacy center, with the outcome that you always have data. Of course, they have different data density in terms of the consentless visitors and the other ones, but you have data. You still have a true picture of your visitors and all that happens. Maybe different density, but you have a complete overview of the stuff. So this is what we currently recommend if there is no real need for a cookie banner, because usually I would say if you have a company, an agency, or clients, they usually just want to present their product, their services, their company. And as stated, these consent management platforms do a real good job in marketing in order to give you the feeling this is something that you need. Otherwise, you break the law. If you do a bit technical reverse engineering and check what they do, you might be surprised where all your data is being stored afterwards. But that's how the story goes. But there is it's an ongoing challenge, even legally, also in front of courts, and there will be decision taking. Of course, stuff takes very long, assuming that we now have GDPR for more than 6 years in place, and we still are struggling with these things here. One of the things which is also interested and I wanted to cover here is that I just always say we There might be other tools doing the same or whatever. Unfortunately, I have to talk here in regards of that, but fairly simple solution that you can apply a certain privacy level based on the origin location of the visitor. Of course, if somebody is coming from Germany, he might be assumed or assigned with the highest privacy level, which means consentless. I think this is the flag of Ethiopia. I don't know anything about the legal privacy laws in Ethiopia, so I apologize if I might be wrong on that. We just chose randomly a country, but assuming that if you have a country with less stricter privacy laws, of course, you can apply also lower privacy levels to them. Then we have the United States, where you can also differentiate between states where people are in. And I think this is Serbia with a different privacy level. But the key message is that you can decide, okay, if people come from there, I apply this privacy level. If they come from somewhere else, and this is all done on country base, that you apply a different level, which brings you in the end more data, more density, based on a legal ground in terms of not breaking the law and not forcing to annoy people with a common cookie banner up front. If this works out, it's fine, but our experiences are that these 80% rejection rate, even covered by ad blockers, by even browsers starting to adopt this approach, it's a realistic number from my point of view. Okay, performance. Why do I mention this here? Because one of the clients that I've mentioned before were coming to us in terms of, hey, it's pretty annoying. I run a tool here every time I want to have a report. It's about, hey, please come back in 5 minutes. Then we have your report generated. This is, in the end, a architectural decision, because if you are running tools on your own server or whatever, of course, they cannot be optimized like that. They are running on a maybe relational database, and stuff takes time. And of course, the more traffic you have, the more complex your reports will get. You will have to just calculate this impact, which is okay if you want to take this. But of course, if you're looking for something optimized in that way, maybe considering also others. And next, last but not least, is of course, if you're working with a provider, you can also outsource the responsibility by signing a so-called data protection agreement. And you can say, okay, I've signed that, this guy is to blame, or this company, which brings a benefit also in certain circumstances. Okay, performance also covers that stuff, which is here, that sweet spot. We covered, of course, there are many others, but I decided to cover these three, which I think are very important. Most of them affect the performance of your own site. Recently had a talk about these things in terms of the geo CDN. A CDN is a content delivery network, which implies the fact that if somebody from maybe Australia requesting a website from yours or something else is not being delivered by a server which is located in Germany, for instance. We will see this in the next slide. Then, of course, the lightweightness. Nobody has an interest to put several unnecessarily payload to your website, because assuming that your website has been or will be loaded thousands of times, this surely multiplies over time. And last but not least is CWV in terms of Core Web Vitals. This is, of course, the picture that we all want to see on our websites. But yeah, it's often hard to reach this point. But Google really loves that. And we are still independent from tracking and stuff like that. Very, very dependent on Google, unfortunately. But that's how it is. But this is what we all want to achieve. And now I will get a bit more into detail here. So that example, let's assume there's a visitor. I would say this is Brazil. So your visitor from Brazil is visiting a website, and you would usually serve, in terms of the analytics part, the JS from here. But why should you do this if there is a possibility to even deliver it from here, which of course brings performance increases. Here, the only thing is very important to consider, that if you build, and we have built our own CDN here, just a second, we have built our own CDN for ourselves, that you of course work with European companies, where we have the trust that they have their own data center in order to deliver the stuff close to the visitors, improve that performance. So doing all this job now and then go to maybe Cloudflare or whatever wouldn't be a good idea, yeah, because we will end up in the same threat and the same situation we ended up with Google Fonts, that people are transferring their IP addresses to providers which they don't like and they don't have the equal security level. Then it's about lightweightness, so that script or whatever you will load mostly ideally does not harm your core web vitals, which is in terms of Google a very relevant ranking factor. I can just talk about me, what we do. So we solved it in a way that we just looked at what is the Lighthouse report looking for in the performance of generating and calculating all these numbers. So what we did, we just hooked in all our doings dependent on the information on the Lighthouse report, and we constantly improving that. That means we respect your DOM, we respect the rendering times, and we do certain operations after the first contentful paint, then after the large contentful paint, and all these things that you nearly would not feel any impact of adding analytics to your websites, ideally. And of course, if there is the need of post-loading needed libraries for additional operations, then of course we do this selectively. And coming back to the math that I did before, the website with 1,000 page views per day, I hope the math is correct, but I double checked it 3 times. But if you have a change in the JS payload from 100K to 20K, you will roughly save 2.3 gigabyte per month. Most of the people would say, I don't care because I have a flat rate, but some do care. But of course, your visitor will care. And that's the most interest that you should have, that your website is fulfilling its goals and generating leads or contacts or whatever for you, depending on your website goals. Bit advertisement, I'm sorry for that. So our approach was always that we wanted to bring a tool which covers all. So we call it one tool for all instead of all tools for once. But we will see later on, and if you're interested in that, I'll surely give you some more insights in a personal talk. But our approach was to, why do you need a tool for that? Why do you need a tool for that? Why do you need a tool for that? You surely can do that. But in a world, and we are coming out of the Wix universe, where people not so tech savvy, they never would have had the capability of post-processing and combining this data from, let's say, Google Analytics, and then you may have also Hotjar and some others, and you have data silos, which you surely would love to combine or convert in a way, but often it's not possible because the most lacking resources in these regards are developers doing the job for you. So we decided from the very beginning that we want to bring something all together. And now comes the real advertisement. Sorry, here's the advertisement sticker. This is, of course, only the very beginning, but we are working in 3 pillars. This is web statistics, general statistics, where you can have how many visitors, what devices, blah, mobile, desktop, visitor stats. We do have traffic structure. Where does your traffic come from? Is it organic? Is it paid? Is it social? We have an outgoing traffic module where you can see where do you lose all your visitors to. So somebody clicks on a URL which is not part of your own domain. So where do you lose your visitors to, which could be in your interest, which could be not, depends. Page performance is device information, of course, UTM and eCommerce campaigns. Then the second pillar is combined with e-commerce, but it's separated here, is our behavior analysis pillar, which deals with session recordings, conversion funnels, heat maps, event tracking. You may ask later on, okay, can this all be done legally? Yes, it can, because the e-privacy directive clearly says you have to ask for informative upfront consent if you ask for information which already existed on the device, which is like a screen resolution. But we are hopefully agreed that an XY information while you move your mouse is nothing that has existed before. We have clarified this already, of course, with our lawyers and went into a very deep due diligence, so don't worry about that. I just wanted to maybe pre-answer that question which might come. Same applies also for heat maps. Then we have also, as part of the visitor behavior, our e-commerce module, which implies shopping cart abandon rates, opportunities and stuff like that. For instance, Virgin Atlantic is heavily using that to analyze their booking process, as already mentioned. What tickets are being added to the cart which have been abandoned. And in order to do that, they will have nice and lean statistics afterwards, giving them the possibility to see stats and numbers for a use case like, let's assume, how many turnover did we do in June 2024 for flights with at least 2 adults starting in London Heathrow. And then the magic will happen and the number will appear and giving them all the stats. Of course, this implies some implementational effort, but this is what's doable already doing these things. And last but not least, the last pillar is, we call it visitor communication, which is about that you have an assistant in order to generate some small polls which might appear here on the top bottom right or bottom left of your page, asking people for instant feedback, like, hey, how do you like our new shop? Is there something we can help? Hey, there is our support page if you need further assistance, etc., etc. And the same is more or less equivalent in terms of the surveys. The only difference is that the survey has been opened in a new URL, which means like customer satisfaction journeys, surveys and stuff like that, step-based with a progress bar, and also the possibility to forward people after a successful customer satisfaction journey to redirect them to a certain URL and maybe bonify them with a 10% voucher for an e-com shop. I just take the e-com example because it's a very nice fit in this relation. Okay, integration, data where you need it. Sorry for the advertisement, but there will be a bit more advertisement, but that's unfortunately part of the game. Integration, data where you need it. So yeah, here's the sticker again. So like you have in YouTube videos, like here Werbe video and stuff like that. Of course, we are here on the Typo 3 Developer Days, and our goal is to give something or bring benefit to the community. And I just brought some kind of a sneak peek of that new Twippler Typo 3 extension that we are about to build, which there is an extension already in the tier, which is, I would say, do not install it. So until then, just add the snippet to your page template. But there is great stuff to come. And our approach was, and our idea was that, of course, if you want to build an extension or a plugin, it couldn't make sense to just offer a deep link to the dashboard. Yeah, why build then an extension? So there must be some kind of an extra benefit added in order to that context. And the stuff, because our own website is also built with Typo 3, we have a multi-page, multilingual, one-page tree approach. And one of the things that I was always annoyed of is, please give me the data where I need it. And one of the things that we have decided to build, and we're currently building it, I hope we will present maybe or have something already done by the T3Con in November to be presented, but is, you all know the page tree, I don't have to explain it, but that you have page URL, page related statistics for this dedicated page where you need it. So just imagine that you run through the page tree and you have exact stats for this specific URL. We will start with 4 tabs, but we are open for recommendations or wishes and so on. We will start with a dashboard where you have a traffic graph. We do have traffic structure here where you can see, is it coming from organic? Is it coming from social media? There will be also a device structure tab where you can see most of the traffic is coming from mobile or from desktop and the operating system. And last but not least, there will be a location map where you can see where all these visitors in that selected time frame have ended up on that specific URL. But this is first only the start. And secondly, we also will integrate some nice, from my point of view, context menu items in terms of showing dedicated statistics for this page, show session recordings which are related to that URL being part of the session recording, or create a new heat map for this page or a new funnel. Funnel is just generally that you have aggregated data of people landing somewhere on your page, visiting in between a certain order of other pages, and then reach a certain goal page. E-commerce example to be taken that again is they land somewhere, then they go to a product page, they go to the checkout, and then they go to the payment or whatever. This is a classical funnel. And to mention this, which is also the benefit of having everything like this in a single tool, is, for our point of view, is that when you see that funnel, we offer, for instance, information that you can see the dropouts of the people who did not make it from level 1 to level 2, go into the session recordings and have a clear overview. Why do people what they do, and why are they not achieving or reaching the next level, which is a big benefit. We're also planning on new features in these regards. We call it alarming behavior events, rage clicking, U-turns and stuff like that. So unnatural behavior that is happening on your page, also underlined by potential session recordings where you have a one-to-one replay to see how people interact on your website in order to achieve your goals. And last but not least, here's the goodie. Thank you very much for being so persistent here. We are happy, and this is more or less an offer. We are giving you something out for free. The next slide is coming with a QR code, whatever. But I would be very happy, as I'm daily dealing with that tool. If you're about to think about using or testing this tool, the biggest thank you that you can give us is to give us constructive criticism. Yeah, because over the years we have built something which we of course really like, but sometimes use cases are different, people are different, and goals are different. That we would be very happy in order to give this out to you if you maybe have the idea or the willingness to say, okay, use your tool, don't like it at all. But if you don't like it at all, just tell us why. That would be great. Thank you very much. I'm now happy if you have some questions regarding this whole context, and happy to answer these.
Yeah, thank you for your talk. I have a question about how is the attribution working with Tripler? Like, is it last touch? Is it first touch? Yeah.
Sorry. Hello? No, okay. So you may talk about paid ads. Yeah, recently there was a movement that browsers already start to cut off parameters. We are really very aware of that. So I think Apple started with that with their big privacy campaign, yeah, which I marketing wise they do a great job. Yeah, but on the other hand, if you spend money on Google Ads and you see, okay, where are my UTM parameters? Where are these parameters in? We are following this very briefly. So what we recently introduced it that you decide whether first or last touch by attaching custom parameters in that regards to say, okay, this is the way we want to, because we cannot judge it, what your approach and how you implement these things. But the bigger part is that they are starting to cut these parameters. So one of the approaches that we are building and thinking about and concepting currently is, for us it's clear this will happen. Yeah, there will be browsers saying UTM underscore whatever, ciao. So we are building a solution currently and testing this heavily that we bring you your parameters back in a way that we compose URLs in that way that the browser can never know that he's not cutting a relevant part of the URL, which means just assume that you will have a different URL to use in order to say this is the URL to call in order to disguise the stuff and register your UTM parameters without telling the browser. But this is, we are aware of that. Firefox is going this way, Brave, and Apple is of course doing great marketing with that. I hope this answers your question. Good. Someone else or coffee break? I just speak loud.
Thank you for your talk. Where is the data stored when you are using this type of free extension? Will it be on the web server? Will there be some tables in an SQL, or is it stored somewhere else?
This is really, really important. A really good question because a lot of people think if I go to AWS, Amazon Web Services, for those who might not know, or Google Cloud, and I go into my node selector and say, okay, I host my stuff in Frankfurt, I'm fine. Of course, this is not true because there is a law called U.S. Cloud Act, which was introduced back then after 9/11, where every local or not local, but every court or a court, let's say maybe not a Supreme Court, but a court in the United States could tell an American company, you have to give us this data. And they do not care if the server stands in Frankfurt or whatever. It's still an American company, so they have to give out the data. And all of these things that you see with GDPR and all these privacy shield, safe harbor, and all these things, that one of the key factors is that they want to ensure a equivalent level of privacy. And with US Cloud Act, it can never happen, yeah, because this would not happen in Germany in that regards, yeah, because of Datenschutz, or especially in Germany. So all the data is stored at Hetzner, which is a very one of the biggest providers in Germany. There might be also bigger ones. And the approach of that Twippler Typo 3 extension will be the following, that we will always fetch the data in real time, so live, and fetching it through your API key from the API of ours. And the data is, as stated, always hosted in Hetzner. It will never leave Germany, beside that you are requesting the data authenticated in your backend. You're welcome. Someone else? Okay. Good. Then I would say thank you very much. If you don't, we don't track you, at least only the clicks, because this runs through a redirect module of Typo 3. It will at least see that somebody has clicked it. If you have the need or not, but I would be happy, please grab your free access if you don't mind, and give us constructive feedback. This is all what we are asking for. Thank you very much.